Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be another narcissistic abuse recovery video. I don't really know what I'm going to title this video or end up titling the video yet. I don't know, I don't really have anything prepared, a topic on what I was going to say, but for some reason I just felt drawn and needing to post another video. So immediately right now what comes to mind to talk about is how does one go through the abuse? How do you know you're ready to leave? I know, and that's some kind of a cliched thing to say, to be like, well, of course you're ready to leave. Anybody who's in that is ready to leave. But you know what? Not necessarily, because it's kind of like the whole Stockholm Syndrome thing. You're so used to being in that environment and in the abuse that it almost seems like your life would fall apart if you left that environment because that's all you've known. And for 12 years, that's why I stayed in the relationship for 12 years. Despite the physical abuse, despite the sexual abuse, despite the narcissistic abuse with the mental and emotional abuse going through. I knew that I needed to leave, but at the same time, all these fears and other things were creeping up inside my head, getting the best of me. And of course, my partner was still mentally and emotionally abusing me and manipulating me to believe that I wouldn't make it on my own and that I wouldn't be able to survive without them, you know. It's kind of crazy how everything happened for in my situation. It was almost like God stepped in and had to pull me out of the situation in his own way because I was refusing to see that I could do it myself. And in a way, I had always had to be the strong one when it came to my family and when it came to my friends. I always had to be the strong one and always help everyone around me. And because everybody knows that I would give the shirt off my back for anybody that I love and I care about. Like, there's nothing that I wouldn't do for people if they came to me and asked me that. And I was secretly hoping that I would have that favor returned onto me. That somebody would come out there and just take me under their wing and help me and save me. And the funny thing is that happened, but it wasn't with anybody here on this earth. It was God himself. He took me under his wing and held me and made a way for me to get away and break away, not only by just opening the doors for that to happen, but mentally and emotionally preparing me and distancing me away from the abuse before I had even left. Because again, in order to be able to fully get away from that abuse that you have endured, you have to mentally and emotionally be healed in a sense, like detach yourself from that person. Because again, as you know, I've talked about manipulation and control is a big thing with abusers and narcissists. That's what they feed off of, and that's why they're allowed to continue to abuse you, because they do have you under control and they have you so manipulated. For me, it was kind of crazy. So I was already slowly going through the mindset that I needed to leave and that I wanted to leave and that I was unhappy. For the entire time that I was with my significant other, I was always being threatened that they were going to leave me, that they could get anybody that they wanted, and the even they made excuses why they wouldn't go in and do things for themselves, and they would force me to go in there and do it because people would flirt with them. And then, of course, they wouldn't say no to any of that. They wouldn't stop the flirting or anything. So it was always a back and forth thing with this person. But and later on down the road, I realized, I came to the conclusion myself that that was all a lie, and they were just saying that so they could get out of doing anything and putting that all on me. But in the whole scheme of things, that's what was being said, and that was what was being manipulated upon me. It was always I can get anybody I want, so you're on borrowed time, basically. Being told that the only reason why they were with me was because I was the mother of their children, and we needed to stick together for the girls. And it really, really drug my self-confidence down to the gutter. Not only that, but he had the upper hand on me because he did cheat on me when I was pregnant with my youngest. And I found out that, and I knew that. So I already knew that he could get and run out on me, and that he would. And so not only did that cause my self-confidence to go down, but it caused my paranoia to run rampant. And because of that, I just bought into the manipulations and the control that he was telling me the truth. And that's when I started not defending myself, even though I knew that I should. It's when I started blaming myself for the reason why the relationship wasn't working out was because of me and being blamed. And I was in a place right then where I was afraid of being alone, because I have been alone for the majority of my life. I've never really had any close bond relationships with people, like actual intimate relationships with men and guys, because one, I've never felt close enough to them and got myself to be close to them. Two, no one really has actually been that drawn to me and wanted a close-knit relationship with me. And so when my kids' father came along, and he was at first showing genuine interest, and to the point where like he wanted to be around me all the time, he wanted to get to know me. He gave me the most attention that I had ever felt in my entire life from a man. And it was something that I had lacked my entire life. And of course, I never had a good relationship with my dad growing up. I never felt that close bond, like father-daughter bond. So I never really also got the example of how a man is supposed to treat a woman, because my parents also divorced. And it was nothing but chaos and fighting and abuse going on my entire childhood. So I didn't have a good example of how a man was supposed to treat a woman. And so when he initially clinged to me and was showing interest in me, I attached myself to that. And again, with the whole narcissism thing, after he had got me hooked and had got me pregnant, his behavior started flipping, and that's when the abuse, the control, and the manipulation started. And again, I in turn blamed myself for his behaviors. And so I was doing everything that I could to try and make it last, because I did not want to lose that connection with somebody that I had, because I had lacked it for so long, and I had been lonely for a majority of my life and never had that real close-knit connection with anybody. And so I didn't want to be alone. And so I put up with his behavior over the years. His lies, his deceit, his control, his manipulations, his abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, all of it. I put up with it because I was scared of losing that close bond and relationship. And I have always also feared that because I do have kids with him, that I would never be able to have a close bond relationship with anybody else, any other man. Because not only would it be hard for them to accept me having kids with another man, but I've always been afraid of what my kids' father would do if I got into another relationship with another man and fell in love with another man and wanted to start a family with another man, and because of how controlling and abusive my kids' father is. And at times I still get in my head that, that I'm never going to find anybody who's going to be able to accept that, because it's just one of my fears. And my kids' dad is becoming obsessive, and he's very controlling and manipulative still to this day. And I don't want to put another man through that. I don't want to put a man through that, to have to watch me deal with that, and for him to have to deal with that on top of everything else going on in our lives. I wouldn't want to put a man through that drama and hurt. I'm never going to go back to my kids' dad, and I've said that multiple times in my videos. But there's always that manipulation and control, and I know that that's a lot for another man to handle. And I also don't want another man to feel like I am trying to be with them because I'm trying to find a replacement father for my kids, because I'm not doing that. Now, I'm trying to find my counterpart, my significant person, my soulmate, whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to find that person, and I want to have a loving, lasting relationship with them so I can show my kids and any future kids I might have, which at this point right now is looking very slim, but I want to show my girls and let them see what real love is supposed to be like. That it's not abuse, it's not manipulations, it's not control. When you love somebody, you don't do that. And I want them to be able to know that so they can avoid the issues that I have had struggling growing up and with relationships. But I don't want my future person to feel like I'm using them as a replacement father, because that's not it. I would like my kids to have a man in their life that can be like a father to them, that shows them how a real father is supposed to be, loving and caring, that puts their best interests at heart instead of their own, and who's going to love and care about their mother the way their mother is supposed to be loved and cared about. That is what I want. I don't want a replacement father. But it's okay to have more than one dad or more than one father figure in your life, and I'm trying to accept the fact that it might take a while, for me to find that person. But I also know that I gotta heal me first. And it's gonna take a long time for me to be able to get myself to be able to start another relationship with somebody. Because I've only been with one man, and he was my kids' father. And on top of healing from a connection with him and healing from abuse and everything, I have to heal myself before I can get into a relationship with somebody else, because I don't want to bring my past hurts to them or into that new relationship. I don't feel like I'm there yet, but I know that I will be soon with God's help. But the moment I realized that I was ready to leave was when I personally realized that I had no love in my heart anymore for that person. It was almost like God had closed off and put a wall with my heart to protect me. God physically built a wall around my heart to keep me from being stuck in this place with him. He had been physically abusing me, and the last time he did touch me, it was at night when we were getting ready for bed, and he did it in a way that made it look like he was trying to show me some affection, like it was tricking me. But then he put all his weight on me and grabbed my arm and was sitting on my legs and my limbs on my lower half so I couldn't move. Grabbed my arms in one hand, and then the other hand grabbed my face and was holding on to my face and my neck like this and blocking my mouth so I couldn't even make noise and scream. So he could get my attention, so he could say something to me, whatever it was. And I know that he knew that he did wrong after the fact, because immediately afterwards he said, "I love you." And that for me was the end of it. Because you can't love somebody and do that to them. And knowing you're doing that act and then you say you love them afterwards, you know you're just saying that to make up for what you did, because you know you did wrong. And to add insult to the injury, not only did he did that, but later on, after I talked to him about it the next day, he blamed his actions on God. He said that God told him to do that to me, to put his hands on me. He said God did that, and he knows how important God is to me, because I've grown up in a Christian home my entire life. I know it may not have looked like that because of the stuff that went on inside, but nonetheless, I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up with Christian values, and I've always clung to the fact that I knew that God was always out there protecting me, loved me, and had a close-knit relationship with God. And he used God as an excuse to get away with his abusive behavior, and to continue to get away with abusive behavior, trying to manipulate and control me to say that God told him to do that. And to add even further injury to that, he stated God told him, or no, it says in the Bible that it's okay to beat your wife as long as you don't kill her. Now, what he was referencing to was something that was taken out of context in the book of Exodus. In the book of Exodus, there was this story where this woman was cheating on her husband, and she was an adulteress. And Moses, the husband of this wife, went to Moses and asked Moses, "What is it that I am supposed to do about the situation?" And in the olden days, in the Bible times, they did stone people. And what they did was they stoned, if the public eye found out that you were an adulteress, they would stone you and stone you to death. Now, and I don't know the exact scripture and the wording, so don't take this as like it's gospel, but what I think it says in this scripture is that it's okay to stone her because that is her punishment for being an adulteress, but don't kill her. Like, but I don't know. And again, like I said, he was taking a scripture out of Exodus as gospel and misinterpreting it and taking it out of context to try and fit his narrative to the situation. I've never cheated on him. I never would. I've only been with one man before in my entire life. I am too loyal. I would never do that. But he was still saying that it was okay for him to be abusive and put his hands on me whenever he felt like it, because God told him he could. God told him he should, and it says in God's word that he can and that he can get away with it. And of course, I was distraught. I was like, and that's when I felt God close that door on my heart towards him. And I know that I can never go back to things the way they were. God strengthened my heart to be able to walk away and not blink an eye or think twice about it. That was when I knew that I was completely done. And that's when I knew that I needed to start making a plan to get away. And the crazy thing is after I started planning my escape, all the doors started opening for me to be able to leave. It was like God was like, okay, this is it. I'm getting you out of this. I'm not going to continue punishing you because you're staying loyal to the father of your children and you're choosing to try and do things right when he is being nothing but abusive. And also, I'm just going to say this right now, and I'm saying this because I have a Christian background and I have a relationship with Christ and God. When you blaspheme God or you put God's name to something that is a complete sin and is complete wrong, you will be severely punished for that. I'm just going to say that and put all those cards on the table right there. That, to me, is like the worst possible thing that you could do, is to try to manipulate and control somebody using God to do it. Like, very, very taboo. I wouldn't wish anybody to do that because of the punishments that you will receive. And that wasn't the first incident that he abused me. There was an incident where my kids were actually witnessing this, and we had been arguing in the kitchen over something, and he got in my face, opened up the freezer, took one of those Otter Pop popsicles, and out of the freezer, and it, because it was frozen, the plastic around it gets very sharp. Well, he took out one of those Otter Pops and smacked it and hit me on the mouth so hard as he could. I fell backwards onto the ground and cut my lip up from the popsicle because of what he did. I had a fat lip and my lip was all cut up and bleeding. And he did this right in front of my kids when my oldest was five or 6 years old. And you guys are all probably thinking, Christina, why didn't you leave then? I wasn't in the mental and emotional state where I could. I was still in that Stockholm syndrome, blaming myself for the reason why he hit me, even though it was not my fault. He randomly just got into my face and decided to do that out of a bit of anger. But I was still at the point where I was blaming myself. And the fact that my kids saw it broke my heart. It broke my heart because, they always saw their dad in a certain way. And then for him to show them that he can be physical, it scared me. Because I wasn't sure what my girls were thinking. Did they think that that was normal? Did they think that that was okay for a man to do that to his mother of his children? It took a few years after that incident of the popsicle and getting cut up and having my, and I'm not telling you, he hit me so hard that he caused damage to my mouth, my jaw, and my tooth, to the point where I had to go to multiple dentist appointments. They had found out that there was so much trauma to my tooth, it caused calcification on this tooth right here. It was so calcified from trauma that I had done that this tooth actually broke off my gum line, and it was broken. It took a year after what he had done to me for that to happen, but it broke off. So, and this tooth right here, this is a crown that I have had replaced. I had to replace my tooth. This isn't a real tooth anymore. It's a porcelain crown because I lost my tooth due to his abuse that he did to me. And I'll never forget what he did to me. I'm literally got lasting wounds from it, physical and emotional and mental from it. But God getting me out of it was a blessing in disguise. Now, I don't really want to say that what happened to my kids' dad was from God, but the situation that evolved after those circumstances is what helped get me out. So I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 or 8 years. I hadn't worked, and I took care of my kids. I was part of the PTO, the PTA for their school. I actually ran the PTA. I was the president and the treasurer for that. I actually was the one who was running the nonprofit PTA group. I'm the one who set it up. I'm the one who was doing all the events at the school, running the events. I did the taxes for the PTA group. I did all of that, the funding, you have you what. I was heavily involved in my kids' school because it gave me something to do while my kids were at school, but it also got me involved with the school. It got me out seeking other relationships with people, talking with other people, getting involved. Because if I hadn't done that, I would have just been sitting at home, waiting for my kids to come home and doing nothing except for cleaning and driving myself crazy. So I got involved with that. Well, COVID happened. And because of COVID happening, the school ended up, like every other school, ended up shutting down. And so there was essentially no PTA anymore. There was no reason to have a PTA anymore. And so for that reason, the organization stopped. And so I stopped doing that. But then my kids' dad ended up, he worked nights, and he was a truck driver, independent contractor. He still is, but he was working nights. And one of the nights that he was working, he ended up getting into an accident where he ran into an embankment in his truck and almost died. Ended up only breaking his hip. Was rushed to the hospital in Bend, because we lived in Portland, Oregon at the time. But he was rushed to the hospital in Bend, Oregon because of the area where he crashed and got into the accident. I didn't find out about it until the next day, because this happened during the night when he was life flighted to the hospital. I didn't know until the next day when he reached out to me in the emergency room. And I had to leave my girls with one of my friends at the time, and my girls had never been with anybody else before. They never stayed the night anywhere, but I was forced to leave them with a friend that I trusted, who had a daughter their age, who was able to take care of them for a week while I went and stayed there at the hospital with my kids' dad. And the kids weren't able to go to the hospital and be with us because of COVID. They wouldn't allow them to be there. And so I had to, for the first time, leave my kids. They had never been without me since the day they were born. They had never been away from their mother except for school. But I had to leave them to attend to their dad. And so every other day, I would go and visit them and stay the night with them and then drop them back off with my friend and then go visit their dad again and be there with their dad. So that happened every other day. And long story short, he got out of the hospital, but he still didn't have a hip replacement because he had to do other things to make sure that happened. But anyways, it made it difficult on our finances to be able to survive because he couldn't work or he couldn't do the same work that he was doing before, and things were difficult. And so what did that mean? That meant that I was forced to go get a job. So I was a little anxious about that because I hadn't gotten a job in like 8 years. 8-9 years I had been out of work. But I was forced to do that because what else was I going to do? My kids needed stuff to survive. We needed to survive. I had to do this for my kids. I had no choice. So I started working, and I got a job working at Fred Meyer's, which I loved. But physically, with my back problems, I was not able to handle it fully. But within 2 months of working there, I managed to get promoted as a department manager for the cosmetics department, where I literally maintained that whole entire department and brought it up to from where it was. It was kind of one of those disaster departments where my manager was always stressing out about it because it was a high theft store and cosmetics are very easily stolen. And the person who was in my department and was the department manager prior didn't take care of it, wasn't really doing her job, was more in the back than actually out on the floor helping customers and doing what she needed to do. I turned that department around from the time that I was there. I even made it so our big, huge inventory at the store that we passed. And there was only one thing that was wrong with it. And it was only because the labels were switched out. And there was no way I would have known that one wasn't supposed to go there. So it wasn't really intentionally my fault for the reason why we got docked 1 point. But it was only 1 point. Otherwise, everything would have been good. But because of my physical issues with my back and everything, I had to stop working. My doctor said, you need to get a new job or you can't work. It's a matter of basically how you're going to be able to enjoy your life going forward. Are you going to be able to maintain that? How long are you going to be able to do this and be there for your kids as well? So I had to think of that. So then I started looking for another job. I started looking for a job working in like an office area, which I did. I then started working for a finance company where I learned how to be a loan officer. I worked with small claims. I did repossessions on vehicles. I took payments for customers. I did collect calls. Like, I learned so much in the accounting world. And I worked there for 2 years, and it was the best thing for me because not only did I get to do something that I found out that I loved, but I got to interact with a lot of people, and it helped reassure me that I wasn't this dumb and stupid person that my kids' father wanted me to continue thinking that I was. And it helped motivate me to be able to move and get a new job because I saw finally the person that I was and the person that I can be. And it gave me a sense of confidence that I hadn't had in a very, very long time. And because of that, when it got time for me to be able to move and all of the doors opened up for that. My job helped me to be able to do that. And I'm now working in the finance department for a hospital. Even way better job than I was working at previously. And I'm hoping that I can continue to just work my way up. Right now, I'm currently working on trying to get my accounting degree and get that started. I want to go back to school. I do have 1 year of school underneath my belt, so that's going to help me. And I also recently discovered that because I'm already working in the field of where I want to get my degree in, I could turn in my work experience into credits. So I could graduate earlier than in 4 years that it would take to get my bachelor's. So I might be able to cut my school time in half. I don't know. I have to look more into it. I haven't even signed up for classes yet. I'm still in the beginning stages of trying to go back to school, but it's something that I really want to do. Because if you think about it in the whole scheme of things, 4 years is really not that long of a time. And it goes by really fast. And 4 years to be able to promote myself and double my income for my children and myself, and to get a degree and to build up my self-confidence and to gain so much knowledge. 4 years is not a lot to be upset about. It's not something to cry about, because 4 years is 4 years, and it does go by very quickly. Especially after having children, you know how quickly the years go by as you see them growing up in front of your eyes. It's like, it seems like almost yesterday that I was having my kids and I was pregnant and I was holding them in my arms, and then that they were toddlers. And now my oldest is 10 years old now. She's almost a teenager, and she's going to be 11 this spring. So it's, time goes by really fast. So 4 years is not a whole lot to cry around about. And so that is my new goal right now. It's my motivator to help keep me going, to keep my head on straight, to keep telling me that I've got this. You know, things aren't always of what it's cracked up to be. And, you know, you could be the strongest, most independent woman, person that you can be, but that does not mean that you still don't need help. You know, if you watch the show Yellowstone, you know Beth Dutton, she's the most strongest and independent woman out there. But even she needs a man in her life. And even she struggles sometimes. And even she needs help. Be a Beth Dutton in the world. Be strong and be independent. But realize that you too still need people. You still need help. You still need a man. I strongly believe that God made man and woman to be there for each other and to help each other along the way. Man needs woman, woman needs man. That is my story on that, and I'm not going to elaborate anymore on that. But again, like I said, I don't really know what I'm going to title this video. I guess I will watch this back after I get done recording, and I will figure out what I want to title this. But yeah, it really took me realizing for myself that things were not going to get better. And honestly, I got really annoyed by myself and frustrated by myself, because every time he would do something to me, manipulate, control, abuse me, I would cry and I would be devastated. And it was like somebody took my heart and ripped it out of me and shattered it and broke it into a million pieces. But it kept happening and it kept happening and it kept happening. And no matter what I did to try and fix things, no matter how much I cried, I still looked ridiculous because I still was staying in that environment. And I pissed myself off. I was so mad and angry. I'm like, I have no right to cry around. I have no right to get upset because I'm continually allowing myself to be in this situation. And it wasn't until I had that realization that I was at fault for the continued abuse. Now, I'm not at fault for the abuse itself and the abuse that was going on, but I am at fault for continually to stay and continually allowing myself to go through that. Now, I'm not at fault for the manipulations and the control and the emotional and mental abuse that happened, but I obviously had to heal to a point to be able to get myself to realize that I was at fault for continually staying in the situation and continually allowing my children to see me in that way, and also for them to have to see their father act that way and be a part of that environment. That was on me. And when I became and realized that, I stopped crying over everything that was happening. That's when I started the plan of, and I literally stuck to my timeline. I kept saying that my goal was to move in September of last year, 2023. My entire goal, all the steps and everything aligned. I found my job. Now, keep in mind, it did take a while. I went through many interviews of different places for this to find a job. But it's kind of perfect how it all worked out, because I found out I got my job right before I was about ready to move. Now, there was some kind of setbacks with moving. I did get delayed by a month, and that was because of my job that I had currently had was very deceiving when it came to getting the funds to leave. I had a profit sharing plan with my employment, and I was under the impression that they had stated that when I left, because I had worked there for 2 years, I was going to get all of that profit sharing funds that I had taken out and earned, which essentially is a 401k, but it had like a percentage of growth that was growing into it. So I was essentially going to be able to leave with a good change of money. But because they weren't entirely truthful with that, it delayed my plans. And I honestly thought that I was not going to be able to move. I'm like, oh my God, I just found out that I got this new job and now I can't move. I've been putting this work into finding a place to live when I haven't even been able to tour the place and everything. But I have found myself a place to live, but I don't have money to be able to get me and my kids out of there. I even had all the legal work taken care of to be able to leave. I had child support, parenting plan, all of that, all set to be able to leave. And the whole money situation was what stopped me. But God opened a door with my dad where he was able to step in and help me to be able to move and to get into this place that I have, and I will never be able to forgive him or repay him. Not forgive him, but thank him enough and repay him for helping me in that situation to get me to leave. Because if I didn't have my dad doing that for me, I would still be in Oregon right now, and I would still be under the abuse, and I would still be in a miserable situation. So I thank God every day for having my dad and bringing him back into my life, because there was long periods of time where I did not have my dad and I did not talk to my dad. I didn't talk to my dad for 7 whole years. And before that, I was only in contact with him for a couple of years, and because prior to that, I had already not had contact with him for like 2 years. So it's been like I've almost lost 10 years with my dad because of situations that happened where I just cut out communication and everything because I couldn't handle it. Of stress, drama, abuse, everything going on, I just could not handle it. So I cut people out of my life. And my dad was one of them. 10 years of that where I cut him out of my life. But I am so glad and grateful that I have my dad back in my life, because God used him to be able to help me to get out of that situation, and I will always be grateful for him for that. And even though he is my dad, I'm still always going to feel like I owe him. I owe him for helping me to move on. I owe him for helping me get out of that situation for me and my kids, and I owe him for just continually helping me out regardless of how things have gone between him and I over the years. But yeah, so that's essentially my story of how I got to the point of 12 years of abuse to just deciding to up and leave and do what I needed to do for myself. Now, I still continue to struggle with the manipulation and the control and everything that's going on still, but it's not as bad as what it had been. Now, people want to say that, oh, you're a strong, independent person, you are doing so well, but little do people know that I'm literally hanging by the strings on my coattails. Like, I am hanging by a thread. I literally don't know how I'm going to get through the end of the night, let alone get through next week, let alone the end of the night. I have no idea what I'm even going to be doing tomorrow, except for picking up my kids from their dad, which is another 6-hour drive. So wish me luck on that one if you're watching it the day that I post this. So yeah, just know, and I just want to put it out there that, like, the people in your life that you see as very strong and independent and like they can take on the world, they can take on anything and do anything to set their mind to it, please check on them, because they're fighting a battle that you know nothing about. And those strong and independent people are strong for a reason, and they look strong for a reason because they do not share their innermost hurts and thoughts and feelings that are going wrong with them. They don't share that because they would rather help you in your situations to help ignore and help them forget what's going on in their life. Helping you helps them. So please check on your people. If you feel like you haven't heard from them in a while, please check on them. Ask them to go to coffee with you. Ask them to go shopping with you. Heck, just ask them to go for a drive with you, like, so you guys can chat and talk. Open the door for that communication, because you know they're struggling with things that you will never know unless you open that door to communication with them, because those strong independent people don't like to share those things and be vulnerable because they don't want to be seen as the weak person. You know, they've been seen as that strong person that is supposed to take on the world and can do anything, and they don't want to let people down, and they also don't want to be called the crazy, emotional, sad, negative type person where all this person talks about is their problems. They don't want to be seen as that. So they hide it and they mask it away, and they only try to focus on the good and the happy, because honestly, really, that is really honestly the road to being able to move on and heal, is to focus on the good and the positive. But people do need to release those negative things that are going on in their life. They have a right to. And they need somebody they love and trust, and that they know that loves and trusts them, to be able to share those things with. So again, I'm going to elaborate on this. If you have strong and independent people in your life that you feel like are like the most happiest person in the world, and that they're taking on everything and they got everything going for them, check on them. Make sure that they are really, truly okay. Give them a big hug. Sometimes that's all somebody needs, is a big hug. You know, I'm a hugger. I love hugs. I think that one hug from the person that you love and the person that you love and care about, or somebody that you trust and care about, can make your entire week. It can make your entire year. Like, just to feel the love from somebody giving you a hug is like the best feeling in the world. It's like those hugs where you want to give a big, huge bear hug and not let them go, because I'm going to tell you what right now, your strong and independent people need those hugs. They do. They need to feel like they are supported and wanted. It helps drive them to keep going. And why do I know this? Because this is what helps me. It helps me to know that there's people out there that care about me and love me and are there to support me, and who support everything that I'm going through and are that person that I know that I can go to talk to them about anything, and they will not judge me. They will not be upset with me for expressing those things. They will want to hear about my hard times and my sufferings because they will want to be able to help me, or at least be a listening ear to know that everything that I've gone through is not just in my head, that everything that I went through can possibly maybe help them, overcome some of the stuff that they're going through. So that's why I heal by helping others. Helping others heals me, essentially, because I love spreading love out there. I love spreading kindness. I love spreading trust out there. And even though I've gone through all this pain and all this suffering, I know what it's like to feel alone. I know what it's like to feel hurt, damaged, abused, not heard, lied to. I know what it's like to not have anybody that you can go to and trust with your thoughts and feelings, and knowing that they're not going to judge you for feeling that way. And so I strive to be that person in my friends and my family's lives, so they can lean on me in their times of need, and where I feel like I've built up enough trust with them where I can lean on them as well. That's what friends are supposed to be like. Somebody you can lean on. You can talk to them whenever. There's no judgments. There's no restrictions. There's no control, manipulations, or anything. That's not what a friend is. A friend is somebody who's always going to be there, who's going to understand. If they truly care about you and they truly love you and they truly understand what you're going through emotionally and mentally, they will be there for you. And it doesn't matter how many text messages you send them, how many calls you call them, how many times you try to reach out to them and want to hang out with them or whatever. They will understand because they know that you will be there for them in their time of need as well. No judgments. So that's how I'm trying to live my life. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to cause anybody pain. I don't want to cause anybody any suffering. I don't want to hurt people emotionally, mentally, any of that. And anytime anything about me gets too much for people, I would hope that people would give me the same respect and be honest with me and tell me, hey, it's getting a little too much right now. Can we just focus on something else? Let's focus on being happy. It's okay to be honest with somebody and say, I'm not in the best mental frame to be able to handle the negativity stuff right now, but can we focus on something positive so we can both feel good? You need that too. You need that person to be able to do that too. And I'm trying to be that person as well. Okay, well, this video became longer than I wanted it to be. But obviously there was a reason why I needed to get out what I needed to say. I think I'm going to title this as, how do you know you're ready to walk away from abuse? That's all I'm going to say right there. That's how I'm going to title. How do you know you're ready to walk away from abuse? Okay. If this is the first time you're tuning into my channel, welcome. I have plenty more videos of narcissistic abuse, so check those out if you are interested in that, into the abuse videos. I also have makeup unboxings that I do for the makeup boxes of Ipsy. So if you like makeup unboxings as well, check those out as well. So subscribe if you're not already subscribed. What are you waiting for? And hit the like button on the videos so it lets me know that you like the content that I'm pushing out, and I continue pushing this content out. Whether you want to hear my abusive healing journey or my makeup videos, just continue to like those because it lets me know to keep going and doing these. And don't forget to hit the bell button when you do subscribe so you don't miss a future upload, and you'll know every single time I make an upload, whether it's a makeup video or abuse healing video. So as always, I hope you all stay beautiful. You all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I hope you all have a good night. Remember, I love you guys. Good night.